Hare Krishna, Prabhu Giri.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dhanwad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh.
No, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Padmanayana Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Dhanwad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Padmanayana Prabhu. Giridhari Prabhu is here to help you for today. He will be the co-host and accepting all the participants. And then he will be the interpreter also for Indonesia.
Who?
Giridhari is there.
Giridhari Prabhu. Okay. Jai Ho Giridhari Prabhu. Thank you.
Krishna. I'll make you the host, Prabhuji, right now.
Yeah, so that I can.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Giri. Kedengaran, Prabhu? Masuk suara saya? Oke. Oh, jangan lupa direkam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So, how was the test? Good?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandavat. Tell me, how was the test? You're
Good.
happy? It was good, huh? Oh, that's nice to hear.
I think it was okay. Nice, Prabhu. So we all got to know how the future test going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice. And that is what was told also, what will be coming. So that was also a good part.
So now you know the pattern and also you know the system.
Yes.
So from next time on, it will be easier for you.
Yes, I agree. I feel like going forward, I'll be able to prepare better.
Were you satisfied with the system they are following on this online test? You have any comment, feedback for me so that I can share with them to improve the
Very
next
good.
test?
Very good, Prabhu. Sudama Prabhu is doing a wonderful job. Actually.
Yeah, he is doing wonderful. Yes. All praise to.
So test day, everyone is calling him Prabhu, Prabhu, Prabhu. He handled very well. Anyhow.
Okay. Yeah, first time, no, there will be some challenge, but I knew it. And I also know that you will all be very comfortable in due course. So I was just allowing you to go through this experience.
Prabhu, in past we used to write by handwritten, so it used to be little faster. You know, we have to just even though I'm IT, I work in IT and we do all that, but not used to write this like the scriptures. Those words and all took some time. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking that's why in the beginning we are going a little slow, and you will become familiar to the system that we are following, and once we are set, then things will improve. So this is the first unit test we conducted, closed book test. How is the open book? Have you all submitted your open book assignment so far?
Yes,
Looks
Prabhuji.
like yes. Good.
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Okay, who has not submitted? Tell me. Everybody has submitted.
No, Prabhu, I have not submitted yet.
Hey, Advaita Prabhu. Your name is Advaita. Why your behavior is becoming Dvaita?
Maybe before the year end, office was too crazy this time.
Yeah. Mataji, she has done?
No, together we are in the.
Okay. If you need any help, let me know. I can help with that also. Okay. Santi Mataji, yes.
Prabhu, how do we get in touch with you if we have a question or concern? What's the best way?
You can contact me through WhatsApp number. Haribol.
To the WhatsApp? Okay.
Yeah, you can contact me through WhatsApp. Then we can talk. I can explain. Most of the questions are answered here in this class. If you have something, then we can respond to you separately as well. Okay, I'm very happy to see you all back here today to continue with our next lesson. Today we will start with lesson 2. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnaprasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva cha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुर्मुहुः रसिका भुवि भावुका। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते
Krishna, Prabhu Giri. Kok nggak ada suara ya? Memang belum live.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, kindly keep everybody muted. When I will ask any question, then they can unmute themselves and then respond to my question. Otherwise, it's better to keep everybody muted. Okay. Dear devotees, let's bring our attention to the third chapter, where Srila Sutta Goswami, while responding to the questions by the sages, he was narrating the incarnations, because there was a question about incarnations of the Godhead. So Srila Sutta Goswami, he narrated different incarnations of the Lord. He listed them. Even though we have discussed in our last class that even though he has listed those saying 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, 22, 23, in some accept it as 24, but they are not actually chronological. He just, discussing one after another. That's how he is numbering them. First, number 1, this number 2. And after listing down all the incarnations, then finally he says, Avataraya Sankhya. Just like from a reservoir of water, unlimited rivers, they start flowing. Or some other says, just like during rainy season, there are unlimited number of bubbles created by the rainfall in the water reservoir. Similarly, there are unlimited number of incarnations of God. So here, Sutta Goswami, he has narrated the pastimes of those incarnations which even have not appeared yet, who is going to appear afterward, like for example Kalki. So in that way, he, after narrating those incarnations of Godhead, finally he said, Janma guiham bhagavato yo etat prayato naraha sayam pratar gnan bhaktya dukkha grama vimuchyate. Whoever recites these mysterious appearances of the Lord in devotion, morning and in the evening. Prata, Sayam, Prata. What happens? Dukkha grama vimuchyate. One gets relief from the miseries of one's life. So, having said that, now the sages are thinking, as long as the living entities are bound by the gross and subtle body, how can they get relief? So, in the next, then Sutta Goswami, he explains about how by having the knowledge of the covering of the gross and subtle body for the living entities, one can become free from these attacks of the illusory energy, and then finally they can attain the Supreme Lord. There we have explained that how the conditioned souls who are in the state of ignorance, they consider this body as the self. They do not know that Maya, the external energy of the Supreme Lord, has avoided this gross and subtle covering on the soul. Just like we gave the analogy of a painter. A painter cannot paint a picture without having a solid surface. Like sometimes a painter paints a picture on the wall or on a canvas. Similarly, the soul is the kind of substance, and Maya, the external energy, avoids these gross and subtle coverings. That's how the bewildered living entities, they consider this gross body as the self, or sometimes they identify with their mind as the self. And how it is happening, he is giving the analogy. We have heard this. What is the analogy? Just like some ignorant people, Prabhuji, keep them muted. Some ignorant people, they say cloud is in the sky. No, cloud is floating in air. Some other says air is dusty. No, dirt is there in the earth. So similarly, the living entity who are in ignorance, they consider this body as the self. And then finally, Sutta Goswami describes this Maya, which is making the soul consider this body as the self. This same Maya, when it is acting under the mercy of the Supreme Lord, it can also help the living entity to gain the knowledge by which he can become free from this false identification. And then he says, finally, that is devotional service. And then he says that this devotional service by which the living entities can become free from the clutches of material existence, this proves originally, according to the Swarupa of the living entities, they are one in quality with the Supreme Lord. So then the question can be asked, what is the difference? When the living entities are born into this material world, they act in relationship with the matter, but the Supreme Lord never acts in relationship with the matter. This is the difference, because we are Anu and he is Vibhu. So in that way, then finally he goes on speaking about the position of the Supreme Lord, how he is the Vibhu, the greatest. And all these qualities have been discussed in text number 36 onwards. Then finally, he is going to speak about the glories of Bhagavatam. Means the questions were asked by the sages, the 6 questions were asked by the sages. Now, he is going to elaborate on answering those questions. We have seen in this chapter actually, Sutta Goswami has briefly discussed 4 questions, but he is not very happy, he is not satisfied. Now, in starting with text number 39, he is going to elaborate on the answers. That's in text number 39. He says, Atheha dhanya bhagavanta itham jadvasudeve khilalokanathe kurvanti sarvatmakamatma bhavam na jatra bhuya parivarta ugraha. Atheha dhanya bhagavanta itham. Bhagavanta means those sages were fully knowledgeable. Oh, perfectly knowledgeable sages. Atheha dhanya. You are all blessed in this world. Why? Itham. Itham means your questions. They had asked 6 questions, and all these questions are in relationship with the personality of Godhead. That means by such queries, you have proven your love for the personality of Godhead. Jad Vasudeve Lokanathe Kurvanti Sarvatmakamatma Bhavam. Just like when you discuss certain subject matter with a devotee, when they start asking some questions, then you can know what is their consciousness. So these sages, when they ask these 6 questions, which are in relationship with the personality of Godhead, this proves that their consciousness is fully immersed in the unto the personality of Godhead in ecstatic love. So that's how he's saying, Kurvanti Sarvatmakamatma Bhavam. You have shown your transcendental ecstatic love unto Vasudeva through these questions. So what is the next? He's saying, Na jatra bhuya parivarta ugra. Because you are so closely connected with the personality of Godhead, that's how you will never come back to take birth again in this material world. That means you will not be born again. You will not enter into the mother's womb. So then he said, okay, the sages may ask this question, dear Sutta, so what kind of Shastra are you going to describe us? It is so great. So now Sutta Goswami is going to introduce Srimad Bhagavatam, that I am going to give elaborate answer to your questions by referring to Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana. Now Sutta Goswami is going to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Sloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishraya Sayalokasya Dhanyam Swasthayanam Mahat. This scripture, named Srimad Bhagavatam, is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. The incarnation of God, it is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Idam Bhagavatam Nama. This scripture means what he is going to discuss just now. Puranam Brahma Samhitam. Brahma Samhitam. Brahma Samhitam means Veda Tulyam. In I think Saunak Samhita, there is a verse says that Tavanti Harinama, Vedakshirani Javanti Patitani Dijuttame Tavanti Harinamani Kirtitani Nasangsaya. That means just by chanting the mantras of the Vedas, when one pronounces each word of the Veda, they get the benefit of chanting the holy name of the Lord. So similarly, you can say this Srimad Bhagavatam is Brahma Samhitam, means Veda Tulyam. This is as good as Veda. A devotee who simply recites these Bhagavatam verses, he gains the benefit of reciting Vedas. Or you can also say in a similar way, just by reciting the Vedas, one gets the benefit of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Similarly, simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get the benefit of even chanting the holy name. That's why it says Brahma Samhitam Vedutulyam. Param Brahma Sri Krishnena Tulya. It is also compared to Sri Krishna. So in that way, there is no difference between chanting the name of the Lord or chanting Srimad Bhagavatam verses. That is how our acharyas recommend that those devotees who cannot constantly throughout the whole day keep on chanting the holy name of the Lord, certain time during the day they can dedicate in chanting these Bhagavatam verses. Uttama slokotaritam sakara Bhagavan Rishi. Bhagavan Rishi, Vyasa Rishi. Vyasadeva compiled this literature. Why? Nishchesaya lokasya dhanyam sastam. For the benefit of the people, all people, he has compiled this literature. So now, Prabhupada is speaking. Puranam Brahma Samhitam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the literal incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna and is therefore non-different from him. Srimad Bhagavatam should be worshipped as perfect, respectfully as we worship the Lord. So, because we know it is not different from Krishna, that's how, by taking the reference from the Saunaka Smriti, we can say, we can also worship Krishna by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, as we do by chanting his holy name. Nishtayosaya lokasya. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. Dhanyam swastayanam mahat. One can derive from the study of the Bhagavatam all benefits that are possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of Lord Sri Krishna that we can expect from his personal contact. So you can see whatever benefit one can get by personal contact of the Supreme Lord, all those benefits can be derived simply by studying this Bhagavatam Mahaprabhu and chanting the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. So then, the Goswami continues. Tadidam grahayamasa shutam atmavatambaram sarva vedetihasanam saram saram samutritam. See, Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, Grahayamasa, who is the most respected among the self-realized. After extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. So, Sarva Veda Itihasanam Saram Saram. The Vedas and Itihasas, they are meant to bring one close to the personality of Godhead. That means whatever have been explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, that is the essence of Veda and Itihasas. Tadidam grahayamasa shutam atmavatambaram. Prabhupada writes to explain this phrase in his purport. Sukadeva Goswami is the topmost personality of all self-realized souls, and he accepted this as the subject of studies from his father Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is the great authority and the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam being so important. He delivered the message first to his great son, Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And we will discuss, you see, Vyasadeva, he divided the Vedas. Originally, there was only one Veda. He divided them into 4. And then also he compiled Itihas, Purana, like Mahabharata. He did not teach this Srimad Bhagavatam to any other disciples. He only taught to his son, Sukadeva Goswami, because he was a Brahmanubhavi. he was not attached to the matter of this world. So he was a qualified person for receiving Srimad Bhagavatam knowledge. So he delivered this to his son. And then finally, what happened in turn, Vyasadeva, he gave it to Parikshit. You can see the parampara, how the parampara started, this disciplic succession started. Sarva Ved Itihasanam Saram Saram Samudritam. So this Bhagavatam is the cream of the Vedic literature, and he gave it to his son. How it started, and then okay. In next verses, Sotu Sangsravayamasa Maharajam Parikshitam Prayopavistam Gangayam Paritam Paramarshibhi. Sukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death without taking food or drink. So, Srila Sutta Goswami, he is explaining how Srila Sukadev Goswami explains Srimad Bhagavatam to King Parikshit. It is explained in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that when Srila Sukadev Goswami was narrating this Bhagavatam to Parikshit, and that time he actually had given the benediction to Suta, that the Suta, who was very attentively hearing the narration, that he is going to speak to the sages of Naimisharanya. So in that way, now Sutta Goswami is speaking that what I have heard from my spiritual master Sukadev Goswami, and by his mercy I am going to speak, narrate the same Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is that? When it came into existence, this is the answer to the sixth question. Krishne swadham apagate dharma jnana divisah kalo nastadrishamesha purana kuthnodita. This Bhagavata Mahapurana is as brilliant as the sun, Purana Arka, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. And persons who have lost their vision due to dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. Purana Arka Dhunadita. Just like by the rising of the sun, all the darkness of the world is dissipated. Similarly, anyone who takes shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana, all the ignorance of darkness which have been accumulated in the heart of a conditioned soul can be easily eradicated. So that's why the recommendation is everybody must take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada writes, Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam are like torch bearers for the blind people of this age. In other words, if men in this age of Kali want to see the real light of life, they must take to these two books only, and their aim of life will be fulfilled. The significance of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is in this connection. It is actually describing Kevala Bhakti to the personality of Godhead. When we next hear about Narad Muni's life history, there you will see in the commentary, I think either Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur or Jiva Goswami, he is explaining that this Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is exclusively describing Kevala Bhakti. That is why Srila Prabhupada by following Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary. He gave Bhaktivedanta purports. There you can see whether it is in the section of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga section. Prabhupada is giving only devotional purports, Bhakti purports. Why? Because the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is to bring the readers unto the level of devotional service. So that is the secret. That's why here Prabhupada is saying Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are the torch bearers. That means anyone who takes shelter of these two literature, they can become free from the darkness of ignorance. Tatra kirtayato vipra viprashe bhuri tejasah aham chadhyagamam tatra nivishta sadanugraha soham vaishyami jathadhitam jathamati. So he's saying aham chadhyagatam tatra nivishta tadanugraha. This is where he's saying, when Srila Sukadeva Goswami was speaking to the Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. And thus, by his mercy, by the mercy of Sukadeva Goswami, I learned the Bhagavatam. And now I am going to speak. Soham bo savayishyami. I am going to speak the same. Jathadhitam jathamati. This is very important. Jathadhitam jathamati. Adhitam means I have studied it and I have assimilated the knowledge. I am not going to speak something from my mind. Like sometimes we have seen some devotees, they read Srimad Bhagavatam, and then after that, when it comes to speaking, they just start speaking whatever they have in their mind. They just, start speaking all sorts of things which may not be related to the verse. So that is not correct. Here, Sutta Goswami is saying, Jathadhitam Jathamati. As I have understood, I am going to speak according to the level of my realization. That means he's not going to add anything or subtract anything. And that is what we are giving reference from the 12th canto, where Sutta Goswami was actually given benediction by Sutta Goswami that he will become the Purana Bhakta. He will also speak Srimad Bhagavatam to the sages in Naimisharanya. That's why now he's saying, Soham Vasravayishyami Jathadhitam Jathamati. So here Prabhupada is making a very interesting point about the word Nivishta, how he was Nivishta Tad Anugrahat, how he was hearing with rapt attention. Let us read this. Can somebody read this from the slide?
The word Navishta means that Sutta Goswami drank the juice of the Bhagavatam through his ears. That is the real process of receiving the Bhagavatam. One should hear with rapt attention from the real person, and then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. The secret of knowing the Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or other, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person, at the very beginning, one can surely see Lord Krishna in person in the pages of the Bhagavatam.
Dear devotees, when you come across such statements, what stands out to you? Would you like to share some of your realizations in relation to how we should accept Srimad Bhagavatam? Nivishtam Tadanugrahat. Yes, Manohar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, one thing that comes to my mind, like to hold something, you need a proper vessel or a patra. So in the same way, the proper qualification is also needed to hold the knowledge. And as we see here, like this Prabhupada mentioned in this verse, Kalu Asmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumand Mate Amand Bhagya, there he mentions this Kali Yuga, the life of people is shorter not because of the quality of food available, but because of their living habits. So I think this regulation and all these things which are mentioned, they are also needed because they purify us and help us assimilate the knowledge.
Vishal Prabhu, what is the significance of this purport to you?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
So Prabhu, so what I've realized from actually studying the Bhagavatam and even hearing and attending the classes is it's changed how I perceive things in the world. For example, like Prabhu was just speaking about the qualities of all the people that are in Kali Yuga. I also reflect on myself, my qualities, and I think, okay, how can I approach my dealings with people? So it talks about being pure in action, and then talks about eating, sleeping. So obviously I used to eat meat many years ago, but I stopped eating meat. And then about the regulative principles, to maintain, to elevate the consciousness, and then also, but the Bhagavatam is doing that itself because it's providing, it's talking about being the light, and is giving the knowledge on how one should act, how should one should talk, speak, walk, these things.
Madan Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This somehow or other, it actually means the mercy of the spiritual master. Because in the last 2 or 3 sentences, he basically, Prabhupada is saying, we are not qualified. Then last sentence, he is saying the somehow or other. So this is actually the mercy of the devotee. Like the bhakti passes from one bhakta to another bhakta. So this is what I have heard from my teacher, and this also I realized that somehow or other means, like when we go to anywhere, we are basically unqualified. It's the mercy of the teacher by which we become qualified. I can relate to it very much, and thanks.
Okay, nice. Good point you're making. Okay, let us hear from Radha Vinod Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu. So the point which is mentioned is, and other devotees mentioned. So it's not only the reading Bhagavatam, how we cultivate ourselves, like right from eating and other habits. So that also adds to everything. So how we build the consciousness to receive the Srimad Bhagavatam and purify ourselves, that also makes difference. It's not mundane Bhagavatam that you can read and just understand.
Okay. Ladini Gopi.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So here what jumps out at me is here with rapt attention from the right person. So one may be doing all those things, but as soon as one hears from the right person, then we are assured to see Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam.
Okay. Yeah, somehow or other we have to hear with rapt attention from the right person. That person means we have to be kind of, chaste in explaining it as it is without adding or subtracting. Rupanuga Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. She just made the point I was going to make about hearing from the right source. I also wanted to say that the consciousness, our consciousness is very important, and therefore the 4 regulative principles become very important, which includes what we eat, and following those regulative principles will purify our consciousness. And with pure consciousness, hearing from a pure devotee would allow us to understand what the real message is, that we can then internalize and give to other people.
Yeah, that is why it is very, very important for us to kind of, go through the detailed study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, what happens is you just did something, then you go to jump to the other thing. You are not necessarily reading Srimad Bhagavatam. You are, accepting what you want, and other part you are not covering it up. Rather, we should thoroughly, study every verse, every section of Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention as it is given to us. I mean to say, every verse in Srimad Bhagavatam is commented by the Acharyas, and they are speaking to us the standing out meaning. We don't have to concoct anything. We have to just, repeat the same thing, immerse our consciousness, our mind, on to understanding the pure message which is standing out from that particular verse. And that will also help us to give rapt attention. That's how we should know how to study Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will not rush ourselves, and we will try to follow the acharyas, and by their mercy, one day I hope we all will get rapt attention to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Last comment, Jai Manohar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is a question actually on the, you were mentioning about the Yatha Aditam Yatha Mati, like according to one realization as one has heard, one should speak. So my question is like, most of the time, like all this knowledge that we hear, I mean, especially on my level, I am not able to realize all of that. So then I should not speak that knowledge. But if I'm still repeating the same.
Oh, yes, you can still repeat the same. You see, I have heard from many Prabhupada disciples who say, my Guru Maharaj said, you give class, what do you have heard from me? So I started giving class. In early days, when Prabhupada had all the young boys and girls in the movement, he would encourage them to give class, and they would feel shy before Prabhupada to sit on the Vyasasana. And Prabhupada would encourage them. He will make them sit on the Vyasasana, and he will also sit in the class to listen to them. He will say, just repeat what you have heard from me. You don't have to concoct a philosophy on your own. So jathadhitam jathamati. Actually, that in that way, what happens? Our loyalty to the acharyas increases, and we try to learn things in a correct manner. And the third thing is, automatically you become a true recipient of the mercy of the acharyas. So in that way, jathadhitam jathamati is a very, very important point in this verse, that we don't have to add some philosophy from our own mental concoction. So if you don't know anything, you just repeat what you have heard. Sometimes, you can write in a piece of paper and refer to your notes and speak without deviating from the main topic. You will see that will be a good training for you. Okay.
Thanks,
So
Prabhuji.
now we have completed chapter 3. Any other devotee would like to ask any question before we enter into chapter 4? No. Okay. So now we are going to start with chapter 4. Here we're going to discuss about the appearance of Sri Narada. The overview of this chapter, in the first 13 verses, Saunaka Rishi inquires from Sutta Goswami about Vyasadev's inspiration, qualities of Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, right? Because they're going to hear from him the Bhagavatam, which was spoken by Sukadeva. And who is that Sukadeva Goswami? The qualities were discussed. And also the listener of this great Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, who was the listener when Sukadeva Goswami spoke Maharaj Parikshit. They also wanted to know about the qualities of such a great soul. And Parikshit was not like an ordinary king. He was the descendant of the Pandavas, who are very dear to the Supreme Lord. So in that way, this is how the rishis are trying to understand the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then the last section from 14 to 25, Sukadeva Goswami explains how Srila Vyasadeva divided the Veda into 4. So in that way, this chapter will conclude. So, in the beginning, Text number 1. Vyasa Vacha. Iti Bruganam Samstuya Muninam Dirgha Satrinam Vriddha Kulapatim Sutam Brihadpricha Saunako Bravit. On hearing Suta Goswami speak thus, Saunaka Muni, who was the elderly, learned leader of all the rishis, engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Suta Goswami by addressing him as follows. That means just now, Srila Suta Goswami was speaking about. Now I am going to narrate to you Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapranam, which was received by Sukadev Goswami, who was a Brahmanubhavi, by his father Vyasadeva, and in turn, the same was spoken by Sukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. So now it automatically made the rishis curious to know more about these two personalities. So they are going to discuss about their qualities. Means the way they're going to ask the question to further explore about the qualities of Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, that establishes the greatness of this Purana, this Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana. And that's how, in the beginning, he is actually congratulating Suta Goswami. That, oh, you are such a great personality. Now you're going to speak to us that great literature, by hearing which we will attain our goal. Towards the end of the first canto, you will see the sages will say to Sukadev Goswami that so long we have been engaged in performing this sacrifice, the result we have got is our body has become blank. That means we know that by the performance of this sacrifice, our goal will not be achieved. What was their goal? The goal is to kalim avatam agyaya khatrismin vaishnava vayam asina dirghasatrena kathayam sakshana hare. These rishis, they knew that by hearing the katha, hearing about the personality of Godhead, we can go to his abode. But till now, we did not have anyone to speak to us about the personality of Godhead. That's why we are engaged in the sacrifice. But we have got full time reserved by on our side to listen to Bhagavatam. So that's how now Saunaka Rishi, who is the Vriddha Kulapati, he is the eldest. Now he is given the opportunity to ask the questions. Text number 2. Saunaka Uvacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Badona Badatam Bara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Sukaha. Saunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Sukadev Goswami. Kasmin yuge pravritteyam sthane vakena hetuna kutah sanchoditah Krishna kritavan samhitam muni. Now they're asking, in what period and at what place was this first begun? And why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasa, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? Then the next two verses, I had given you some exercise, some task to perform. So identify general principle from themselves respective reactions to Sukadev Goswami and Vyasadeva. That is explained in text number 4 and 5. So I will just give you 5-7 minutes. I hope you have done your homework. Now just to refresh your memory so that you will be able to speak a few words on this exercise. I'll give you 7 minutes, so kindly take 7 minutes to complete your preparation, and then we will hear from you about the general principle and the significance of this general principle in your personal execution of Krishna consciousness. Okay, first of all, you must have identified the general principle as your homework. Now you can re-look at the general principle and you have to tell us the significance of this statement in your own practice of Krishna consciousness. So let us take 7 minutes. I'll come back to you after 7 minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, kindly share your general principle and also share your personal application to this principle in the practice of Krishna consciousness. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. So, Vishal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So distinction is made here between Vyasadeva and Sukadev Goswami in terms of the reaction of the damsels who were bathing in the water. So this is when Sukadev Goswami left the and was walking in the forest. I think. So the damsels didn't react according to when they saw Sukadev Goswami because they could sense that he.
What is the general principle? You don't have to repeat the story. What is the principle you have drawn from these incidents?
That one for one to differentiate between male and female, that an individual has to be at a liberated stage, a Brahma Buddha stage.
So what is the application of this statement for you in Krishna consciousness?
That we should try to see everyone as equal and not differentiate between male and female, animal and dog eater or chandala, treat everyone equally.
Okay.
And also it talks about being a grahastha. For example, Vyasadeva is a grahastha, and he basically was performing the duties of the ashram. So, and he has to differentiate between male and females within the ashram. So, and we shouldn't also similarly try to differentiate according to our ashram. So respect the responsibilities of the ashrams as well. Thank you.
Prem Kishore Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. As Prabhuji said, a householder has to distinguish between male and female, while a sannyasi looks upon everybody as Atma, spirit soul, and that is the principle to differentiate here in this verse. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, Prema Gaurangi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I found in one of the sentences that Srila Prabhupada said that one should attempt to know the distinction between body and soul without any attachment to male and female. So for us as Grihasthas, we should now get beyond that platform of male and female and focus more on body, like distinction between body and soul. This is my take out from it.
Madan Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So there are two general principles. The number one, the general principle is that in each varna and ashrama of varnashrama system has its own functions, own duties. So one should not pretend to be in some other ashrama. That is one. Number two is people respond according to our consciousness. So the ladies didn't cover themselves for Sukadeva Goswami, but they covered themselves for Vyasadeva. So application of this is that, like when we are preaching, if we are trying to download our theoretical knowledge, that is, then our consciousness is not there. But if our consciousness is to genuine welfare of the other person, they will get it. They actually, my teacher says like very nicely that people actually see our consciousness. Although they look at us, they actually see our consciousness. Even, like it is a subtle way, but they see our consciousness.
Good. Excellent point. Who was there? Okay, Narottam Vilas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So, basically, Madan Prabhu said it's very close to it. So, based on the ashram, one should act in that way. For example, for a grahastha, even though we need to distinguish between male and female, but we should understand, at least for us, that there's a distinction between the divinity doesn't have any male and female body. Even though we are in that particular, even though we're in Grihastha, there should be clear, at least theoretically, Prabhupada says we should understand that part. And for a learned sage, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, so that's what should be applied to. That's what my understanding is.
Okay. Lavini Gopika Mataji.
Just a point to add to what Prabhus have mentioned so far. So internally, we understand this and respect everyone as eternal part and parcels of Krishna. But externally, because we're living in the society, we have to follow certain norms, else it is like, it gives rise to Sahajaism. Thank you.
What is that? Sahajaism?
So not taking into consideration male and female body, but just artificially pretending to be what you're not, imitating. And that is incorrect and causes more chaos.
Okay, Narahari Prabhu, Narahari Dev Prabhu.
Prabhu, my point is very similar to Haladini Gopika Mataji's point, is that Vyasadev, even though he was in a liberated state, he did not pretend to be in that transcendental position, and he basically acted as a householder. So maintaining social custom among devotees is very important, and one must not try to act outside of one's adhikar. So that is the lesson we can stand from this.
Prema Gaurangi Mataji.
Prabhuji, this is a question I have. When we look at the verse 3, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Vyasadeva compiled the Mahabharata for the less intelligent woman. And so I want to understand why in some of his purports he made distinction between male and female. And how do I expect Srila Prabhupada in his purports, why sometimes he made distinction between male and female, and how do we explain this to others? Because, for example, I have to give a class on Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada elaborated on how female is less intelligent. So how do I explain that to others? Like, could you please guide me on that?
Prabhupada has said this also in his lecture, that this is not applicable for the devotees. That is a statement from Chanakya Pandit. He is speaking about the non-devotee class of women. Like you see, even today also we'll see at the end of this class, text number I think 25, Tri Sudra Divya Bandhanam Traina Shruti Gochara. The statement is given in the Shastra that Stri, Sudra and Dvija Bandhus, they are not qualified for the Veda. They cannot read Vedas. To actually, some of the devotees, they take this and quote different explanations from the Vedic literatures, how these three Sudra and Dvija Bandhus are less intelligent. And some of them, even they go to the extent of explaining that they are always impure. So without purity, they cannot gain the qualification to receive Veda or Vedic knowledge. Even I have read by one Acharya, he explains to that extent that what to speak of reading Vedic Veda by these three, they are not even qualified to hear. That's why Vyasadeva has compared Mahabharata and all. But the point is, these are from the material viewpoint. But when somebody becomes a devotee, that's Srila Prabhupada, even if you read the Prabhupada's purport to that verse, Prabhupada is giving a totally different dimension. That means somebody who is on the platform of goodness, he is a true recipient of the Vedic knowledge. Not necessarily somebody who is born in a Brahmana family or Traivarnika. Traivarnika means Brahmana, Kshatriya, Shudra. Sorry, Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya. If somebody is born in either of these varnas, then and he is inspired by mode of passion and ignorance, he also does not have the qualification to assimilate Vedic knowledge. That means to assimilate Vedic knowledge, one needs to come to the platform of goodness. So, okay, now let us come back to our society. What the devotees are practicing, they are practicing Krishna consciousness. Means they are chanting, they are waking up early in the morning, they are, honoring only Mahaprasadam, they are reading Veda, I mean to say Vedic literature, Gita, Bhagavatam. They are every day taking darshan of the deity. Many of them are having deity worship going on at their home or in the temple. What are these activities? These activities are transcendental activities, number one. Even if we say that considering our current condition, nature, we are not in a transcendental position. But at least when you are coming in contact with such transcendental activities, it is definitely putting us in the mood of goodness. Those who are practitioners of Krishna consciousness, you can see automatically their mood of goodness is prominent. You can see it. Somebody before joining in movement, they had a lot of bad habits and but not they were eating. But after joining, you can see there's a lot of radical change in those persons. So this is a proof. Proof is our society. Prabhupada, he is a pure devotee. And just by looking at him, by hearing him speaking Bhagavad Gita, all these people who were loitering in the street out of mode of passion and ignorance, they were elevated to the mode of goodness and to the Suddha the platform. This is a proof. So, that have been given considering the material situation of the living entities, but Krishna consciousness is transcendental. One who accepts Krishna consciousness, Tato, these things are not applicable to him. That's why in Prabhupada's lecture, he clearly mentions this statement is not applicable for the devotee woman. Again, devotee means we have to become a devotee. Not that I say, no, I am a brahmachari, but I have a lot of dirty things in my mind running all the time. Then what is the use of claiming myself as a brahmachari? I am a devotee. I am a devotee means I have to act like a devotee, not pretend to be a devotee. Maybe we'll read that purport when we come to that verse. Radha Vinod Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu, I just want to, I was remembering the previous, some of the slokas it mentioned, Sukdev Goswami did not undergo any purificatory process. And statement it shows that, he was more than sannyasi, or he has that elevated consciousness. So it was just me. That time I did not understand. But when you see this, it gives a convincing answer why it was mentioned there.
Okay, last point from Rupananga Prabhu.
Thank you, bro. I find this particular pastime confusing.
Okay.
Because first impression is that somehow Shukadev Goswami is superior to Vyasadeva Goswami because of the reaction of these women. And then it says, no, they're both liberated, they're both in transcendental stage, but one is not pretending to be liberated soul. And therefore the distinction is made in the minds of the women. So is it just because he's a grihastha that in the minds of the women there's distinction? Because I cannot imagine that this distinction in the mind of Vyasadeva. He's at the same stage as Shukadev, if not a little bit better, because he's the father and the guru. So I get confused as like, what are they trying to tell us?
Actually, you see, when we are reading this, we need to see this from our perspective. One way, another way is to see from their perspective. That is why this double kind of mind is coming. And yes, it is also explained that Vyasadeva is a liberated soul. He's not to be considered amongst any of these ordinary grihasthas. So here the point is because why somebody becomes grihastha? let us understand this philosophy clearly. If this person does not see the difference between male body and female body, he will not become grahastha. Or on the other hand, because he has seen the difference between male body and female body, and he is trying to take association of that opposite body to make himself happy. This is the difference. So that means, from philosophical viewpoint, a grahastha has to see the difference in the male body and female body, otherwise he will not enter into that ashram. This is a fact. So here, this is a teaching lesson for us by Vyasadeva, that from this incidents, and you see, that is what the Apsaras are saying. Prabhupada is making a very interesting point. Some of you have certainly touched it. I am going to read it out. The ladies who were bathing could understand the mind of a man simply by studying his dream and awe. In that connection, Prabhupada is speaking about Vyasadeva, that he was a grahastha and he was differentiating between female body and male body. And he has to do that because he's a grahastha. Okay. But in this connection, that's a big message for us, that some of you have, in a certain way, you have touched it. When a male member is speaking to a female, these ladies, they have this, I don't know, what is that, maybe fifth or sixth sense. They are very, very intelligent in judging man's behavior. That is how, a man does not know that, oh, he is speaking or making his gesture in a very, how do you say, lustful way. And he feels, this lady does not understand my mood, my intention. You are a fool number one. Learn from this. You don't pretend yourself. They understand your mind. Even better than you do understand your own mind. So in that way, we have to be very, very careful. That's why in our Vedic civilization, the men are taught to be a chaste man with his wife only. And don't deviate your attention to any other women, because they can understand, they can read. And the current world situation, you can see everything is happening because of the men's lust desire, and they are trying to pretend themselves, and ladies can understand, and everything starts from there. Very dangerous situation. So yeah, especially for us, we have to understand what our positions are, and at least try to maintain the proper consciousness, proper frame of mind, so that there is no scope of the other party to misjudge or judge us and put ourselves into a dangerous situation. Any further comment or question? Ladini Gopika.
I have a question, Prabhu. So here there is stress that a householder should be able to distinguish, but practically you see that everyone, irrespective of the ashram, should be able to distinguish. So can you help clarify that?
Yes. You see, here, as long as we continue to exist in this material world, for example, a brahmachari in the brahmachari ashram, he also needs to differentiate. How he is differentiating? He knows that if I am attempting, or even if I am thinking about a lady, that is kind of a death for me. That is the death of my spiritual life. So in that way, there is a distinction. He is looking at it. But never he thinks that, oh, women body means that is too much, that is degraded, that is condemned. And, he does not think it like that. Rather, he understands that, what is my position here and how I should. That's why in our Vedic civilization, I mean, in our movement also, we address everybody as Mata, like, ladies as Mataji. Why? Because that difference is kind of there, that, okay, you respect them as your mother. Don't see them as the object of your enjoyment. So in other ashrams, except grahasthas, they should also respect others as their mother, not the object of their sense gratification. So in that way, there is a difference to position ourselves correctly in Krishna consciousness frame of mind. not differentiate from a materialistic mindset and try to underestimate their position as women. From the transcendental perspective, this, what is this body? This is a kind of, body. Gross body means it's a dress of a man, dress of a woman. Similarly, dress of a dog, that's a dress. But soul is in pure consciousness, in pure transcendental position. He has a spiritual body to serve the Lord. So a devotee has to be very much seasoned in his understanding about Krishna conscious philosophy. And as long as he continues to exist in this world, he should be very, very cautious about how he is projecting himself in the society. For example, I think in this unit, you will see in third lesson, we have got gross and subtle body. Our subtle body becomes manifest through ear, eyes, intelligence, all these things. And this subtle body is actually giving us, the body is actually implicating us in this material to get one after another body. A devotee needs to understand this philosophy clearly, and he is to make the distinction to position himself in Krishna consciousness, in Krishna conscious frame of mind. Madan Mohan Prabhu, does it make some sense, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Madan Mohan Prabhu?
Just wanted to, like there's a parallel understanding in my mind that we have heard that, Uttamadhikari and Madhyamadhikari. Uttamadhikari sees everyone as engaged in Krishna service. So staying at Uttamadhikari stage, one cannot preach. So in order to preach, one has to come, the Uttamadhikari comes to the Madhyamadhikari. Like then so this discrimination, like who is engaged in what kind of activities and so on, the Varna and Ashram, all these things comes into play for the Madhyamadhikari. For the Uttamadhikari, he sees that everybody is engaged. Does it make sense, Prabhu?
That is philosophically what you are saying is correct, but one thing I could tell you that as long as we are in this material world, we are in this material body, the reactions are there. I mean to say, unless you are truly conscious, you will meet with danger. Sukadev Goswami, if you talk about Sukadev Goswami in this connection, what is the position of Sukadev Goswami? He was totally out of material consciousness. Totally. Not that he was in Uttama platform, he came down to Madhyama platform. Okay, if you are coming down to Madhyama platform means you're going to deal with the material world, with the matter. You're going to touch the current. When you touch the current, you will feel it. Not that he is in Uttama Adhikari platform, now he has come down to Madhyama Adhikari platform, he is touching current is not going to affect him. It is not like that.
I'm talking about Vyasadeva actually. Vyasadeva is, I'm not talking about Sukadeva Goswami. I'm talking about Vyasadeva actually. Vyasadeva is already Uttamadhikari stage, but in order to, like he's in Grihastha Ashram and he discriminates, but
In our kind of day-to-day life activity, I would say that how much a devotee is elevated may be. How much a devotee is elevated may be, still he needs to respect the social custom and follow it externally. He may be, very much elevated in his consciousness internally, and that should not project out to give a wrong impression to people. He is such an elevated person, and he can, behave with anyone in any way, talk with anyone in any way. What about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Let us take this example. Whenever he had to speak with some of his lady disciples, he would ensure that another devotee is there sitting with him. Why he had to follow that? They are acharyas. They are teaching us. Do you think Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is such a Naistika Brahmachari? And what appetite did he have for the opposite sex? And that too, being a guru, he's talking to his disciple, lady disciple. He will always ensure that one of his disciple, male disciple, is next to him when he's talking to his lady disciple. Why? Because he understands, I'm still in this material body. You cannot, you see, how much you have advanced, still you are in this material body. And material body is going to act under the influence of the gunas. It will. So that's why Acharyas, they are very, very cautious. Very, very cautious on this matter. Then otherwise will become the kind of, will be entered by Sahajiya mood and will commit mistake. Actually, what that's why that's in describing Raganuga Bhakti, like that it is explained by here antar yahar duita sadhan. In the similar way, a very highly elevated person, he also has double mood, Bahya Bhav and Antara Bhav. When it comes to dealing with material world, he will have Bahya dealing. Bahya dealing means, how to respect somebody, what is his position, and what is my position as a male. So he will maintain all these etiquettes externally. And internally, his consciousness is very, very high, very superior, and he is floating in ecstasy. Because his internal consciousness is immersed in Krishna, that is why he is able to externally project himself as an ordinary person. Those who are not internally so much elevated, they pretend to show externally, I am so elevated and I can behave, in a very, very, chaotic way, and people will still accept me as a sadhu because I am highly elevated. This is nonsense. A highly elevated person who has developed that kind of internal mood, externally his behavior in dealing with the outside world will be on the platform of Shastra. He will never transgress the rules or regulations of Shastra.
Thanks, Prabhu, for sharing these deep points. Very nice. Thanks.
Probably we have not entered into Krishna Bhakti, I can tell you. Anyway, at least I can speak about myself. I don't want to speak about it.
No, Prabhu, you have entered. We haven't.
No, Baba, don't let us not, That's why, what I am thinking. See, we are taking some time to discuss these points, to benefit us actually. See, Bhagavatam, we are studying for what? You tell me, what is our life is meant for? Our life is meant for to kind of, become a genuine devotee. Means let us understand what are my challenges, what is my consciousness, how I can. This is the best way that we devotees come together. We read Bhagavatam, we then discuss the topic, and we kind of, remind ourselves about our position. So I am just studying with all of you. This I'm thinking like, I'm also a student. I'm a student between all of us, and we are trying to discuss, understand these things from a proper perspective. And this is how actually we try to purify our consciousness through the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyway, it was a good discussion to hear from all of you. So whatever you have understood how to apply this principle, you can try to apply in your own practice of Krishna consciousness, and also in preaching. This is applicable in preaching also, especially how to deal with the opposite sex. And then he asked the next question in text number 6. Okay. Katham alakshita paure samprapta kurujangalam unmatta mukha jadavat vicharan gajasave. How was he, Srila Sukadev, the son of Vyasa, recognized by the citizens when he entered the city of Hastinapura. After wandering in the provinces of Kuru and Jangala, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded. So here Prabhupada also explains that this Hastinapura was first established by a king called Hasti. Because the king's name was Hasti, who established this Hastinapura, that's how the name became Hastinapura. And Sukadev Goswami, after reading Bhagavatam from his father as he traveled, all these people, they were not able to understand him. Katham va pandave yasya rajarshi muninasah sambada samabhuttata jatra isham satvati shuddhi. How did it so happen that King Parikshit met this great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of Veda Bhagavatam to be sung to him? So here the question is, Sukadev Goswami was so highly elevated. He was never on the material plane. Then how come he got the time to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam to Sukadev Goswami, to Maharaj Parikshit? Prabhupada writes, Srimad Bhagavatam is stated here as the essence of the Vedas. It is not an imaginary story as it is sometimes considered by unauthorized men. It is also called Suka Samhita, or the Vedic hymn, spoken by Sri Sukadev Goswami, the great liberated says. Sukadev Goswami was liberated, then how come he came in contact with Rajarshi Parikshit and he spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to him? Now they are speaking more about the qualities of Sukadev. So godahana matram hi griheshu grihamedhinam avekshate mahabhavas tirthi kurvan stadashramam. So Sukadev Goswami used to visit the Grihastha's house. And why did he go there? Did he go there to beg food for his belly? No. Tirthi kurvan stadashramam. He went to the householders just to give them an opportunity to become sanctified just by his darshan. Mahanta swabhavi tarite pama nijakarja nahi tabu jantar bhar. Mahadvi charanam nrinam grihinam dina chetasam nisya sai bhagavan annatha kalpade kochit. So these are the duties of the Mahabhagavatas. When they go to a householder's house, they don't go with a desire to fill their belly. Rather, they go there to sanctify their house. Prabhupada writes, he was not accustomed to stay at any householder's residence for more than half an hour at this time of milking the cow. And he would just take alms from the fortunate householder. That was to sanctify the residence by his auspicious presence. Therefore, Sukadev Goswami is an ideal preacher established in the transcendental position. So he would go to their house just to sanctify their residence. Abhimanyu sutam suta prahur bhagavatottamam tasya janma mahasarjam karmani chagnihina. Now in next 5 verses, they're going to discuss about the qualities of Maharaj Parikshit. So far they discussed the qualities, wonderful qualities of the speaker. Now they're going to speak about the listener. Who is that? Abhimanyu Sutam Sutam. Abhimanyu Suta, the son of Abhimanyu, Maharaj Parikshit. It is said that Maharaj Parikshit is a great first-class devotee of the Lord. Bhagavata Uttamam. Tasya Janma Mahascharjam. Yes, his birth is, full of mysteries. When he was in his mother's womb, he was protected by Krishna. So that means his birth is very, very wonderful. And activities are also karmani chagunihina. So please tell us about him. They want to hear about Maharaj Parikshit, whose activity and birds are all wonderful. So Prabhupada is explaining what was his activity that was wonderful, because he chastised the Kali. Kali was trying to hurt the leg of the cow, and he protected mother cow. So in that way, his activities are also wonderful. They want to know about him. So this is the great literature they are going to hear. Sa Samrat Kashyava Hetu Pando Nam Manavardhana Prayopavisto Gangayam Anadrityadhiratshyam. He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death? We have seen in the description of Mahabharata, like when this Parikshit was born, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he actually spoke to the astrologer. What would be the destiny of this boy? Is he going to kind of follow the custom what we have established in our family tradition, or he is just going to become a Bhagavan? That's how we have seen in our Vedic civilization. The parents, they hold the high position in terms of ensuring the fate, I would say even good fate, of the children born in that family. That's how they, from the very beginning of their life, they try to guide them so that they're going to become a true person in their family who will be following that family tradition. Even till today in India, if you go to some very highly aristocratic family, they are not degraded, they are not degraded. You see the behavior amongst family members, how they take care of their children, thinking that, oh, this boy or this girl is born in our family, he should uphold the tradition we have been maintaining in our family. There are some families are there in India even till today. So that's what the point is here. See, he was a samrat. Not that he was given some kingdom or he got a kingdom by begging from somebody. He inherited the kingdom which was ruled by Maharaj Yudhishthir. So he has a very high dignity. So why such a person had to relinquish everything and went and sat on the bank of Ganges and fast until death? What was it? Why did he do that? And now further they're describing about the quality of Parikshit. Namanti tatpadaniketam Shivaya hani dhanani saprava Katham sabira siyamanga dustyajam Jivai satostat sprushtamoho mahamani subhi. So they are saying, Namanti jatpadaniketam atmana. Parikshit Maharaj was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed insuperable kingly opulences. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life? So here, now next point, they're going to speak about the position of Maharaj Parikshit as a king. Shivaya lokasya vaya bhutaya. Ya uttama sloka parayana janaha jivanti natma artham aso parashrayam Momocha nirvidya kutaha kalevaram. Why did he decide to give up his body when his body is pararthamasrayam? Parasrayam. Parasrayam means his body was shelter for others.
A king's body is the shelter for the citizen of the country because he gives protection. That's what Shivaya Lokasya Bhavaya Bhutaya. All the activities performed by the king is for the development of the society, for the benefit, for the well-being of the citizens. So in that way, Uttama Sloka Parayana Jana. So he was a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. Then why he had to give up everything and why did he give up his body? That is not very, very desirable. So those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead, Uttama Sloka Parayana Jana, live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. If you want to become Uttama Sloka Parayana Jana, then you must live for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. At least for your family members. Try to practice from your family. Okay? Learn this. And they do not live for any selfish interest. So even though the Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his material body, which was shelter for others? So when you know your body is shelter for others, that means you don't claim proprietors over your body. What happened to Sanatana Goswami? He was thinking, oh, I have got boils in my body, and when I go to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he always embraces me in that way. I am contaminating my Prabhu's body. So he decided to give up his body under chariot wheel. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is super soul, he understands. Oh, Sanatan, what are you thinking? Why do you desire to give up your body under chariot wheel? When you have given this body to me, this is my property. This is not your property. You have no right to destroy it. Similarly, those devotees whose life, whose body is meant for serving others, they have to take care of the body to protect it so that they can serve the others. So in that way, they are asking that why did he decide to give up his body? Why did he give up his body? He should not have done that. Sarvatmanaha samachakshva prishto jadi kinchana manyetvam vishaye vacham snatam manyatra chandasat. He knew that you are expert in the meaning. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects, except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you. Vacham, manye tvam vishaye vacham, snatam manyatra chandasat. Snatam. That means they're saying, actually, you have taken full bath on the subject matters of the Vedic literature. So you can very nicely respond to our questions. Now, Sudha Goswami says, Suto Vaja. Dvapare samano prapte tritiye yoga pariye jata parasraj yogi vasavyam kalaya hare. Sudha Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped, the third, the great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parasara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. So here there is a story in Mahabharata which explains about the birth of Vyasadeva. Some people, they don't understand the great birth of Vyasadeva. They sometimes tell that, oh, he was born from Satyavati, who was a Matsyagandha Kanya, and the way Parasara Muni, he gave birth in the womb of Satyavati was not very auspicious. So people try to find fault. So this story has been explained in Mahabharata. It is like that. She was Vasavyam. the daughter of the Basu. The Basu name is Uparichara. There was a Basu whose name was Uparichara, who was a servant of Sakra. Sakra means Indra. And he was given with an airplane by which he was always traveling on the upper planets. That's how his name became Uparichara. Uparichara. So one time he was asked by his father to go for hunting, Mrigaya. And when he was in the forest, he remembered that his wife, actually he was remembering the beauty of his wife who had just finished her Ritu Snanam. And at that time, he gave his semen to an eagle, putting it on a leaf of a banyan tree. And the eagle, when carrying the semen, he was faced with another eagle. The other eagle, he thought that this eagle is carrying a piece of flesh. So he wanted to take it from the other eagle. As a result of which, the semen dropped into the Yamuna river. And it so happened that in that Yamuna, there was a fish who was cursed. Actually, there was an Apsara. Her name is Adrika. This Adrika Apsara was once cursed by a Muni to become a fish. And this fish, he ate the semen, and she was pregnant. And then this fisherman who caught that fish, he presented it to the king of the country. And when they cut the fish, there were twins born from that fish. The son was Matsya, Matsyaraj. So like Matsyades, we know from Mahabharata, there is a description about Matsyades. So the boy name was Matsya. And Raja, he became the king by the name Matsya. And the daughter's name became Basavi, Kali, Matsyodari. So here you can see, that's why it is said in this verse, Basavyam means she actually, her name was Basavi. And this Basavi, this daughter, was given to the fisherman. So the fisherman, he was taking care of Vasavi as his own daughter. And one time, Parasara Rishi, he was going for the pilgrimage and he wanted to cross the river. And this fisherman was taking prasadam at that time. And when Parasara Muni came, then the father said to the daughter, "Oh, my dear daughter, can you help this Muni sage to cross the river? Take the boat." So the daughter started sailing the boat with Parasara Muni. And there they had the union. And it is explained that the daughter hold the semen in her ear, and he gave birth to the baby through her ear. You see, these are not like ordinary dealings in this world. So then, when the son was born, the Satyavati, she actually took care of the son, keeping the son in that Dvipa, in that island. That's why his name became Dvaipayana. And after some time, when the son became old, little big, then he understood everything from his mother. Then one day he called his mother and he said, "My dear mother, now I am going to my father's ashram. And whenever you remember me, I will be there in your service." That's how you can see whenever Satyavati wanted, Vyasadeva helped, came to the spot to assist. We know this Vichitra Virja incidents there. Anyway, so this is how Vyasadeva was born. from the Basu. That's why it is said the daughter of the Basu, Satyavati. So kadachit saraswatya upasprisya jalam suchi vivikta eka asina udite ravimandale. One day, once upon a time, he, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took his morning ablution in the waters of the Saraswati and sat alone to concentrate. So here it is said that one day after taking bath in Saraswati, after doing Achaman, Vyasadeva, he actually sat down and started to concentrate. This signifies that he was in a very solitary place. And it is said, where is that place? That place is called Badrikashrama. So, in the next is Paravaragya Sarishi. He was Paravaragya, who knew past and future. Kale na vyaktaram hasa. Juga dharma vyatikaram praptam bhuvi juge juge. So, it is explained that in that particular time, when is that time? Ashtavinsati Chaturjug, on the 28th cycle of the millenniums, Chaturjuga. At that time, there is overlap. And Yuga Vyatikaram was there, the overlap of Dwapara and Treta Yuga. And Vyasadeva, who was Paravaragya, who could see past and future, he could see the degradation of the human consciousness, how the human being is going to be degraded and they will lose their appetite to understand the principles that are explained in that one Veda. That is what the degradation, what he saw, he is explaining in the next verse. Bhautikanam cha bhavanam shakti hrasam cha tatkritam bhautikanam. Here bhautikanam means the lifespan of the human being will be reduced. Durbhaganscha. Durbhaga means they will be suffering from many different diseases. Shakti rasam, their intelligence, their mind power will be reduced. And asaddha dhana, nisatvat, their determination will be reduced. And Rashita Ayusha, their lifespan will be reduced. And Durvagangscha Janan Vikhya Munir Divyena Chakshusha. Through his transcendental vision, he could see the degradation of the human civilization in this age of Kali. Then Sarva Varna Samanam Dadyudhu Hitam Amoghadrik. Amoghadrik. He was equipped with perfect knowledge. That's why he desired to benefit all these varnashramis. And to benefit these varnashramis, what did he do? He divided the Veda. That's what it is said. Chatur hatrum karma suddham prajanam vaidikam vyadadhat yajna santatyahi Veda mekam chaturvidham. There is only one Veda. Initially, there was only one Veda. In Vayu Puran, it is said, Eka asid jajur Veda, astam chaturdha vyakalpayat. Some people, they find fault with Prabhupada that they say, oh, there is only one Veda. The name is not mentioned anywhere. But you see, in this Vayu Puran, the mention have been given, the name have been Eko Asid. There's only one Veda. What is the name? Jajur Veda. Tam Chaturdha Vyakalpayan Yat. Vyasadeva divided that one Veda into four, Chaturdha, Rig, Sam, and Jajur, Atharva. And also he then divided, and also he compiled Mahabharata and Purana, who are considered as Panchama Veda, and Chaturhatram Karma Shuddham. Normally, any sacrifice performed for the outcome of the sacrifice, and they engage 4 ritvijas, 4 priests, and they are expert in one Vedas. For example, the one of the Hotris, one of the ritvijas name is called Adharyu. He is supposed to be expert in Yajurveda. Rig Veda expert name is called Hota. Hota means who offers. And Udgata is supposed to be expert in chanting the Vedic hymns. He must be expert in Samaveda. Then one who can ignite the fire without taking fire from outside, he can continue the sacrifice. He is supposed to be expert in Yajurveda. His name is Adharyu. Then Brahma is expert in Atharva Veda and Atharva Veda, and he is the kind of administrator, you can say, supervisor. He supervises that all the activities are done properly. So Vyasadeva, that's what it has been said. Chaturhatram karma shuddham. For the perfection of karma, he created this Chaturhatra sacrifice. Prajanam Bhikkha Vaidikam. So in that way, after dividing the Vedas, how did he divide? Rig Jaju Samathar Vakya Vedas Chattvara Udhrita Itihasa Puranamcha Panchama Veda Uchyati. So the 4 divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, were made separately, but the historical facts and authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the 5th Vedas. The Puranas, Mahabharata, they are called 5th Vedas because they are mostly discussion about different histories, the stories, and sometimes an episode of the story. Sometimes some songs are there. So that's why they are called Panchama Veda. In that way, the Vedic knowledge is taught through these literatures. And then in next verses, it is explained how he distributed this Veda to the different disciples. After the Vedas were divided into 4 divisions, Paila Rishi became the professor of the Rig Veda, Jaimini the professor of the Sam Veda, and Vaishampayana alone became glorified by the Yajurvedas. Then the Sumantu Muni, Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with the Atharva Veda, and my father Romaharshana was entrusted with the Puranas and historical records. Toetadisvayo vedam swam vyasyanaked anekadha Sishyai prasishyai vedastair sakshino bhavan. So in that way, all these rishis, they started to disseminate this knowledge through their disciplic succession. Grand disciple, great grand disciples, in that way, the parampara, this disciplic succession continued. To eva veda durmedhair धार्यन्ते पुरुषै यथा एवं चकार भगवान व्यास कृपणवत्सलः. Thus the great sage Vyasadeva, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual man. So here we can read this purport. As I was saying, that Prabhupada is speaking something. What is her name? Gaurangi Mataji, right? Gaurangi Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
So you are saying, no, you just listen to the purport 24. I am reading. Or do you have book? You can also read. You have book with you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6th line from the beginning of the purport of 24. That line starts with a class of men.
Yep. A class of men who claims Brahminical qualifications simply by their birthright in the family of Brahmana claim that the study of the Vedas is a monopoly of the Brahmana caste only. Another section of the people take this as an injustice to members of other castes who do not happen to take birth in the Brahmana family. But both of them are misguided. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness.
Okay, just see this. Therefore, when Prabhupada is giving a reference, the Veda was explained in Brahmaji. Okay. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons. Means he's not saying ladies or men or Brahmana or Sudra. No, who are those persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. Persons who are in the mood of passion and ignorance are unable to understand this subject matter of the Vedas. Yes, a person may be born as a man in a Brahmana family, but if he is hunted, he is affected by passion and ignorance, mood of passion and ignorance, he will not be able to understand Veda, even though he is born as a man in a Brahmana family. So it's very important. That's why the devotee in Krishna consciousness, they may be men or women, we don't differentiate so much because they are practicing transcendental religious activity. But here, because Vyasadeva has to give to the common mass for the Veda for the common mass of people, and he knew that Sri Sudra Dvija Bandhunam, they have no adhikar for the Vedas. That's why for them, he made some adjustment. In this connection, one thing I would like to remind to all of us that, you see, we are so fortunate in this connection that we have got this access by Prabhupada's mercy. Even though there are so many people in this world, how many people are there who have got access to this Vedic literature, what Prabhupada has given to us? He, by giving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to us, automatically he has put us on the highest position as a human being. He has made us transcend this Varnashram institution by accepting Krishna consciousness. Those who are followers of Krishna consciousness, they are beyond Varnashram, and these are the kind of Varnashram restrictions. Like in the next verse it says, Tri Sudra Dvija Bandhunam Traina Suti Gochara Karma Seyasi Mudhanam Seyo Eva Vedya Iti Bharatamakyanam Kripaya Muninam Kritam. Kripaya Munina Kritam. Muni, out of his causeless mercy, he gave Mahabharata. Why? Tri Sudra Dvija Bandhunam Traina Suti Gochara. They have no access to the Shrutis. Karma Seyasi Mudhanam Seyo Evam Bhavedya. Karma Seyasi Mudha, those who are blinded by karma, how can they elevate themselves? How can they be benefited? So that is why he has given some direction, means he has divided the Vedas and he has instructed them how to perform different religious activities so that they can attain good destination, Seyasi. So that is why he has done the divisions of the Vedas, and also for benefiting Sri Sudra Dvija Bandhus, he has given Mahabharata. Okay. Narottam Vilas Prabhu, I think you want to ask one question?
Parikshit Prabhuji, yes, Prabhu. So in the previous verse, Prabhuji, the translation Prabhupada mentioned, he edited the Vedas. So when the word edited, does it mean he just divided the Vedas, let's say it was number 1, he made it 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, or did he make some changes in the actual Vedas so that it can be assimilated by the actual intellectual children?
No, he did not actually make any changes. It is explained that Brahma once, so we saw no, there is only one Veda in the beginning. If you see the previous verse, it says Eka. There is only one Veda in the beginning. So when this one Veda was there, and by the influence of time, the Vedic knowledge was reduced. it was misunderstood by people. And when Brahma saw this, then he prayed to the Supreme Lord. That's how Supreme Lord came in form of Vyasadeva, which is explained in other Puranas. There's a connection actually. This is Lord's pastime. So then Lord appeared as Vyasadeva in response to the Brahma's query, and he divided the Vedas because Vedic knowledge is the original knowledge, and he framed them into proper you can say compartments and gave the qualification of different personalities who can follow this, and they can gain perfection in their human life. He edited means he just divided. He didn't add anything or subtract anything. Even if you can say in Vyasadeva being the Supreme Lord, even if he does that, there is no.
Yep. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Rupanuga Prabhu? No, nothing. Okay. Just a clarification. Sukadev Goswami, body is not material but liberated. So, even though he is a Mahajana, the social etiquette not exhibited by him should be not we consider rather the Acharya's example followed. Actually, you see, Sukadev Goswami's, the path of Sukadev Goswami should not be imitated. He was definitely transcendental, he was liberated soul, he was totally out of this bodily consciousness. But we are meant to follow our acharyas, not the Sukadev Goswami like that. Like some people, they follow this Arhat, no? This King Arhat, he followed, he was a imitator of Rishabdev. And from him, the Jainism started. Nowadays, also some people, they are just unnecessarily trying not to wear the clothes and, are you in that position? What are you imitating? You're not supposed to do that. So, no, we need to follow our acharyas. Our acharyas. Okay. Dear devotees, everything is okay. So today we have concluded. Let us see the lesson's objective. Okay. Okay, so in today's class, in understanding part, we discussed about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam in reference to chapter 3, text number 40 to 44, and explained the reasons for Vyasadev's division of the Vedas. If the general principle drawn from the example of Sukadev Goswami and Vyasadeva, and explained how these principles could be applied personally in preaching and in preaching. Thank you very much. Next reading assignment. You can find some verses from this section, 10 through 15, and you have to explain if it is useful for preaching. And if you accept this, that particular verse is useful for preaching, then you must explain why it is so. And you have to read until the 15th verse number 15th on 5th chapter. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat
Hare
pranam.
Krishna, thank you, Dr.
Dandavat
Prashant.
pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna.
See you next week.
Hare
Mohon
Krishna.
jangan lupa
Dandavat
tukar
pranam.
rekamannya ya. Hare Krishna.